Chapter 14, The Firedrake. Beowulf wanted peace. He liked the days he could spend with his bees, and the summer sun, and the way that the night came gentle from the dusky sea. He had seen enough of wars and quarrels and sudden death. He longed for quiet, to be able to stand by a blue pool in the evening and lob a pebble in the water and watch the circles of ripples spread slow on the sober surface. Yet, he regretted Hardred's killing. His conscience would not let him rest until he had avenged that. So he sent word to Aedylas in exile and helped him with men and equipment and plotted a campaign for him. The fighting was fierce and long, but in the end, Aedylas won. He killed Anella in fair battle. At last, the kingdoms of the north could live in friendship. Beowulf enjoyed the peace he wanted. For 40 years, the land was happy and undisturbed. A generation of children grew up who knew no more of violence than picking flowers and tumbling on the sands. Wives were concerned with the snowy produce of the washing tub. Old soldiers, some of them survivors of that last brave 14 who had gone with Beowulf against Grendel, sat with their ale in the evening under golden-budded oaks and fought over battles long ago. It was a good age to live in, everyone agreed. Beowulf was now an old man. His beard was white. His back was bent. He was nearly blind. He had done nothing much for 40 years but tend to his bees. The bees had taught him, he said, to rule wisely. There was order and beauty in the world of bees. He had tried to bring some of that to the world of men. But there was one person in the land of the Geats who was not happy. He was a slave, and he had been threatened with a beating for doing something wrong. He did not like being beaten, so he ran away. He climbed high into the mountains to hide. Now, nobody ventured into the mountains because long ago one of them had been opened up and used as a burying place for princes. As was the custom, all their treasures had been buried with them. Gold and silver, swords and jeweled cups. People believed that it was best to leave such places alone. The treasure had been given back to the earth, and it would be a sin to steal it. The slave was desperate. He did not care about any of this. He clambered up over the storm-lashed rocks. The place was wild. Huge blocks of stone lay everywhere, piled against the mountainside, threatening to fall, strewn about as though hurled by giants in some dreadful battle. At last he got to the top. This was where the treasure had been buried. He crept inside a narrow crack in the rock. It was like being inside a demon's mouth. Teeth tore at him as he wriggled along. They may have been no more than sharp ridges in the walls of the passage, but to the slave, alone and frightened in the dark, they seemed alive and snapping. Something did not welcome his presence here. His scalp prickled. His spine felt like an icicle, but there was no going back. He came to a natural chamber. The light dazzled his eyes. The chamber was crammed with treasure. On the floor, in the middle of a maze of gold, sat a lizard. The slave felt panic flooding through his limbs as the lizard's eyes swiveled and looked at him. He grabbed the nearest thing to hand, a jeweled cup big enough to bathe a baby in, and turned and squeezed into the flaw in the rock. There was a fury at his heels. The lizard hissed and swelled. Fire poured from its mouth. It was not a lizard at all. It was the Firedrake, the most evil of creatures that haunt the burying places of men. The slave's hair caught fire in the blast of flame the Firedrake sent to follow him. He screamed, but he clung on tight to the cup. He had one thought. If he took his prize back to his master, he might escape the whipping. It must be worth a lot. He struggled out into the open air and plunged his head straight into a mountain stream. And then he set off as fast as he could, scrambling down the rocks, the cup clutched to his chest. The mountain shook with raging of the Firedrake. Its scaly body swelled and swelled as it got angrier. It had gold eyes and a thrashing tail. Flames came teeming from its mouth, and molten spit and reeking, scorching smoke. The effect was like a volcano. Fortunately for the slave, the creature's swollen state prevented the Firedrake from following him through the fissure in the rock. If this had not been so, the thief would have been roasted alive.